I'd like to take the first few moments to kind of introduce UPF through a video. You saw a little bit of one we were playing while people were coming upstairs, because we have an audience online, which we're very grateful for, from all over the country and different countries. And we wanted to show them something while we managed to make it upstairs. We still have a few latecomers coming, so we're going to give them a little time. So I'd like to start with an introduction to UPF. Universal Peace Federation is a worldwide NGO. We are the UK branch, and it has a general consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the UN. It also has charitable status here in the UK. And UPF was started in September 2005. And it came on the basis of a number of other organizations, and it coalesced under this umbrella of Universal Peace Federation. So, Raymond, could we start with that one? And then I'll be back afterwards. Thank you.
UPF had its inaugural assembly on September 12, 2005 at the Lincoln Center in New York City. Reverend Sun Myung Moon delivered the keynote address.
In closing, I ask you to devote your best efforts for the development and the success of the Universal Peace Federation. Thank you. Thank you.
After UPF was founded, there was a series of world tours where the message of UPF was taken literally to every corner of the world.
That it is time for all nations and religions to break down their barriers. Through this, the era of one family under God will arrive and last forever.
UPF is God's cherished hope. The founders spoke repeatedly of an international peace highway connecting the world from Santiago, Chile to London, across the Bering Strait, what has come to be known as the Peace Road, and a vision for a renewed United Nations. UPF emerged on the foundation of decades of programs initiated by its founders and carried out in all parts of the world. Its growth and development over the past 15 years has been dramatic, if not miraculous, owing in large part to the work of tens of thousands of ambassadors for peace, peace activists, and volunteers who draw from all nationalities, religions, ethnicities, cultures, and traditions, bound together by a vision of peace, a vision of humanity as one global family under one God. The range of programs over the years has been both broad and expansive, from character education to strengthening the family, from conflict prevention to conflict resolution, from poverty reduction to environmental stewardship, from interfaith dialogue to youth service initiatives, from support of the United Nations to partnerships with the African Union, and a wide range of international organizations and NGOs. UPF has a global, multinational, multi-faith network of more than 100,000 ambassadors for peace who support and contribute to the mission and works of UPF. UPF's highest award, the Leadership and Good Governance Award, has been given to distinguished leaders the world over. The World Summit Series is UPF's flagship program involving the highest level of leaders from around the globe, including current and former heads of state and government, to address the critical challenges facing humanity.
Very appropriate that we are here on the 100th anniversary of Reverend Moon's birth, because out of the devastation of World War II and the Korean War, he and his bride found the courage to dream that they could achieve something. And it is amazing what they have created together.
Programs have been successfully held in Korea, the USA, Senegal, South Africa, Nepal, Cambodia, and other nations. The most recent structural innovation within UPF has been the creation of a set of associations dedicated to collaboration among leaders from various fields. These pillar associations are: the International Summit Council for Peace was initiated by UPF co-founder Dr. Hak Jahan Moon in 2019 on the occasion of World Summit 2019 in Seoul, Korea. ISCP is an international network of current and former heads of state and government. The International Association of First Ladies, IAFLP, a project of the ISCP, affirms and uplifts the unique role of First Ladies in contributing to peace and development. IAFLP brings together current and former First Ladies from throughout the world, drawing upon their experience and wisdom as women leaders and as role models who serve their countries in significant ways. The International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, IAPP, is a worldwide association of parliamentarians which provides a forum to bring their experience and wisdom to bear in the search for solutions to our world's problems. UPF maintains that any successful strategy for peace must take into account the spiritual dimension of our human identity, experience, and interactions. Based on this worldview, UPF initiated the Interreligious Association for Peace and Development, IAPD. The International Media Association for Peace, IMAP, represents a worldwide professional network of journalists who support a socially responsible and moral media. IMAP recognizes the vital role that journalists play in providing objective reporting to foster an informed citizenship. The International Association of Academicians for Peace, IAAP, is a global interdisciplinary academic initiative aimed at contributing toward the realization of a world of lasting peace. IAAP is dedicated to building professional networks for academicians to foster a world of peace. The International Association for Peace and Economic Development, IAED, affirms the role of businesses, business leaders, and investors to make the world a better place. In early 2020, UPF convened a rally of hope featuring dignitaries including Pastor Paula White, Cambodia Head of State His Excellency Hun Sen, President Macky Sall of Senegal, former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, former U.S. Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and many others.
I believe that the Universal Peace Federation and its broad set of partnerships in the realms of politics, religion, academia, media, economy, arts, women and youth serve as a good model. I believe the Universal Peace Federation will become a cornerstone to build lasting peace around the world and a heavenly unified Korea based on interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values.
Celebrating 15 years, UPF will continue to grow through service, dialogue and collaboration, guided by its spiritual and moral vision of one family under God.
I think that gives a good overview of Universal Peace Federation, its philosophy and background. And in a video, in a very short space of time, you can capture a lot. First of all, I'd like to invite Mr. Otto Canon, the co-chair of GSS Audit Committee, Sustainability Consultant, and World Sustainability of the World Sustainability Organization. He is a multi-award-winning consultant for sustainability. He's earned several awards from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, several state governors, organizations, and His Imperial Majesty Ojaja Ioni of Ife. I'm sorry, you'll have to correct my pronunciations. My apologies. The biggest monarch in Africa. To mention a few, in 2016, he founded Clean Cyclers Africa to recycle plastics and paper waste, plant trees to mitigate climate change, and promoted these practices as a lifestyle in achieving a sustainable environment. Please welcome Otto Canon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robin, for that beautiful introduction. Our actions and reactions are equal and opposite. But what about our inaction? Those are words of my late dad. God rest his soul. He passed just recently, about 3 weeks ago, 6th of this month. So it's been a hard time for us. Thank you very much. But his legacy lives on. His teachings, his sets of values, moral ethics. Our actions and reactions are equal and opposite. We all know the famous scientist, Isaac Newton. That's his third law of motion. But my dad would ask, what about our inaction? And he would respond, our inactions, just like our actions, also have equal and opposite reaction. Because choosing to act or not to act are both causes to an effect. We all know the law of cause and effect. I remember some time ago, I think that was about 2016, because in Nigeria we have what we call the National Youth Service Corps. After your university, you're supposed to do some social service or military training. And I was away from home in a faraway land, serving my motherland at the time. And my mom called me on a particular day while I was in a meeting. I couldn't take the call. But after the meeting, I realized she had given me about 17 missed calls. I wondered, why would my mom be calling me that much, that hour of the day? That was quite early in the morning. So I quickly called her back. I called her Mommy Correct. I said, hello, Mommy Correct. I hope everything is okay. And then she sounded with a down tone. She said, Canon, my son, all is not well. Worried. I said, Mommy, what's wrong? Speak to me. She said, it's Ahoy. Ahoy had been sick for the past 3 days. The doctors had come to the house to administer all the right medications, but still there's no improvement. Still the situation keeps deteriorating. As a competent communicator, I was quick to interrupt. I said, no, mommy, you can't be crying. Speak to me. What's happening? She said, no, Ahoy is dying. As I tried to raise the head up right now, he quickly dropped back to the ground in response to gravity. He's lying parallel on the ground. I can see you're inquisitive. You want to know who Ahoy is. Ladies and gentlemen, Ahoy was our 50 kg Neapolitan Mastiff dog. Some might feel, oh well, it's an animal. Ahoy had lived with us for practically 10 years. He was like a brother to me. He was literally part of the family. My mom said, no, the doctor has given him all the right medication. He's still dying. Ahoy is dying. Ladies and gentlemen, that day, Ahoy died. Thank you. Hard time for the family, sad time for the family. Ahoy was such a beautiful dog. You barely find dogs that can understand, that can communicate. When you tell Ahoy, dance, he quickly bends his back leg and shakes the tail. Interesting dog. So when Ahoy passed on, it broke my heart. I was thinking I was strong and I could motivate my mom, I could talk her out of crying, but I cried too. But to immortalize Ahoy, we had to get an expert in skinning dog because it's something they do in Africa, where they cut out animal skin, like leopard and tigers and dogs, and you can put it on the wall, like a wallpaper for the memory. So he came, in no time he was slicing and dicing and trying to get the skin out carefully. And there was a shocking revelation. What we found was heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and saddening. A tiny intestine that should be like the size of a straw was swollen like the size of an egg. Inquisitively, we had him cut it open. Lo and behold, it was a plastic bottle cover. Ahoy had swallowed a plastic bottle cover, and it got stuck in his intestine. But just like Ahoy, loads of animals, thousands, millions are dying on a daily basis because of plastic ingestion. We have colonies of majestic seabirds declining in numbers because of plastic ingestion. We have beaches, islands, lakes filled with plastics. We have children. There's a picture I saw, I think, on a certain documentary. You see children swimming in lakes filled with plastics. But what fascinates me the most is a study carried out by the Marine Conservation Agents that a whopping 7% of all the waste found in our homes don't just come found in the ocean. 7% of all the waste found in the ocean don't just come from our homes, but from our toilets. Yes, Marine Conservation Agents. Your research shows that. Who flushes it? You and I. Our wipes, our tampons. But not anymore. I want you all to repeat and reiterate that with me. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I want it even louder because I want it to sink in our heads. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Thank you very much. Because the change we seek in our world begins with us. You and I. If not you, then who? Those were the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Michael Jackson also sang it and reiterated it with a song. He said, you need to start with the man in the mirror. I want us to commit to not flushing 4 P's down our toilet, but 3. We need to take out plastic and stick with paper, pee, and poo. I want us to commit to properly disposing and managing our waste. That day Ahoy died, it activated a higher part of me. And I realized that I can't keep watching people get hot the way I got hot. And so I founded Clean Cyclers. Then it was a plastic recycling company to recycle plastics and ensure that the plastic waste that makes it to the ocean is recycled to keep the circular economy going. Then we moved from plastic to aluminum to paper. And growing up with my dad as a medical doctor, a veterinary doctor, and an agriculturist. As a veterinary doctor, he loved animals. So there were always loads of animals in our house. As an agriculturist, he loved trees. So I learned how to plant trees. I remember on a particular day driving down a certain bridge in the city of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. I saw them cutting down a particular tree. I was pained. It wasn't my business. But as a concerned citizen, as a concerned individual, I rushed down. I said, hell no, why are you guys cutting the tree? They almost beat me up. Yes. But then I seized the opportunity to talk to them about the importance of trees. And they said, well, it wasn't their fault. It was their boss that asked them to cut it because they wanted to put a billboard. And I wondered, a billboard for a tree? And there's something my dad would always tell us. He said, be the solution to a problem around you. Make sure you take it upon yourself as a lifetime assignment to fix a particular problem in your life. And somehow, that has always resonated with me. I realized that there's a lot of things to do. It's, in fact, every other day, I realize there's one thing or the other to do. So there's the plastic recycling, there's the tree planting, there's advocacy campaigns. We've done a lot of this with Clean Cyclers. We've set up several environment documentaries, which we are planning with Universal Peace Federation for the World Environment Day. We've set up a lot like Nowhere to Run by Leonardo DiCaprio, where we get a lot of people into a room. We've also gotten partnerships from cinemas in the past, where they give us their cinema room, and people come and watch and get oriented, get educated. We've set up clubs in schools, several schools, over 57 schools, where we go regularly to talk to children about these issues. And I realized that all of this comes under sustainability, where we care for people, planet, where we ensure that money is used as a tool for people and planet, because we know one of the major problems and challenges of the world today is that money is made by corporations, organizations at the expense of people and planet. And that brings us back to the question, who is going to protect our planet? If not you, then who? If not me, then who? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? Ladies and gentlemen, I want this question to keep resonating in our minds. I want us to keep pondering on this and realize that we all have a role to play, because the government is made up of people like you and I. The boards of corporations are made up of people like you and I. A lot of people hide behind these big boards and let the company perpetuate the act. But as an individual, realize that you and I have that power to make a change, because as an individual, I'm just like a drop of water. My effect and impact will just create a little ripple. But when we come together, our effect and impact would create a wave. And together, we would no longer be just like a drop of water, but we would form an ocean. Thank you very much. And back to you, Ravi.
Next, I'd like to invite Duchess Nivin ElGamal to speak about the impact of plastic pollution. Duchess Nivin is a patron of UPF. She has championed women's rights and empowerment, and through her philanthropic work and leadership, she's made a significant impact in advancing the cause of women's equality, both locally and globally. And some of the biggest names in fashion industry, designing, modeling, and an influencer empowering and inspiring women everywhere. In addition, her contributions to the fashion industry, she has attracted attention for well-known philanthropy. She has a number of charitable organizations that she's been working to support and helping to develop. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I feel sad. If instead of all the money spent on war was spent on finding environmental solution, ending poverty, and finding treaties, what a wonderful, peaceful place this earth would have been. In my childhood, we've been told by teachers and all adult parents how to behave in this world, not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our messes, not to hurt other creatures, to share our sweets, not to be greedy. So where all of these lessons gone today? Tell me why do you go out and do the opposite? Did we all forget what we were taught? Tell me why we are attending this conference today. What is the benefit? I'm standing here today to defend the children of the world and asking everyone why you act this way, throwing things in ocean and seas, making all the world get polluted. We are deciding what kind of world we are growing our children up in. Is this our choices to deprive them from a clean life? Parents should be able to comfort their children, not telling them lies by saying everything is going to be okay. It is not the end of the world today. There will be food on the table. I don't think so. I don't think any of us can say that to our children anymore today, while wars are killing our children, destroying families with no mercy, and all the world watching in silence. My question to you today, are children even on our list of priorities? You are what you do, not what you say. Are you doing this right? Well, let me tell you. What you do makes me and all the children of the world cry every night. You all say you love children, but I challenge you. If you do, you will not destroy our earth and kill our future. Please stop killing our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Duchess Nivin. I'd like to invite Justina Matali to come up. Justina has been a long friend of UPF, I think, 12, 15 years, maybe. Maybe Margaret could, 15? So when we first saw her, we thought, oh, there's a rising star. And she started off the Justina Matali Foundation for girls and is particularly helping with girls' education. She became the African Woman of the Year in 2012. And she has numerous awards and has become a motivational speaker. We've seen her start off in the UK, and then she became someone who's traveling to so many conferences and so many places throughout the world. So we're very grateful that she came this evening to talk about the effects of climate change in Africa. So please welcome Mrs. Justina Mutali. Thank you.
Good evening, and Excellencies. I'd like to specifically recognize the Honorable Member, former Member of Parliament, Keith Vaz, and of course, Robin and Margaret and Otto. It's good to hear you speak, and all protocols observed. I get puzzled. I get puzzled and wonder why there's been so much money invested in trying to find life on Mars. And you think, we haven't even been able to handle Earth. How do we try to go and want to move to the next planet when we haven't done what needs to be done with Earth? There have been some excuses to say that we are getting overpopulated, which is not true. Of course, when you're in London, you think you're overpopulated. But if you just drive a few miles outside of London, you will see how much land is there, and it still remains inhabited. I come from Zambia in Africa, and I think from my last research of what I can remember, each Zambian today has got about, is it 8 square meters or 8 square kilometers to one person, because we've got that much land. So there is no need for us to be trying to move away from Earth and go to another planet. Another thing that bothers me is how we treat Earth, as if it is something that's going to run out. How we want to take everything out of Earth and forget that we need that balance. We need to maintain that balance. We need those animals. We need that wildlife. We need those birds to bring the balance to the world. And of course, we need the Earth, the proper Earth. And then you find that in our quest for money, I don't know whether we should call it economic development, but in Africa, I think it has an adverse impact on us. For example, with the mining, of course, there's lots of money in mining, but you find that in mining, there's pollution. Pollution of the air, and of course, pollution of the waters. When I was young, we had the purest water in the rivers, in the villages and rural areas. When I grew up, I get surprised to see some of these international organizations saying donate money so that the children in Africa can have clear water. We had the best water at that time. The streams and the rivers had the best water at that time. In 2013, I was appointed as African Diaspora Ambassador for a campaign that we called Enough Food for Everyone, IF campaign. That's when the UK had the presidents of the G8, then we had the G8. We looked at 4 areas that we believed contributed to world hunger and how we could tackle them and stop those. And I was shocked and heartbroken to come across a project under the, one of the areas was land grabs in Africa. And I came across this project during that campaign where we had a multinational that had gone to a place in Tanzania, a very fertile area. They grabbed the land and displaced the people that lived there so that the multinational could grow what they called biofuels. As it so happened, first of all, the villagers were displaced from these are villagers that used to grow their own food and they could feed themselves. So they were displaced to some rocky place where they couldn't even grow food. Two things happened, or three. One, the villagers ended up coming back to that project to work now for the multinationals so they could eat, because where they had been relegated to, the land was not fertile, they couldn't grow any food. After 5 years, that project failed. Those biofuels couldn't grow, or whatever crops were supposed to be grown there couldn't grow. But the land had been depleted of its fertility. It had been depleted of its fertility that for many years to come, you cannot grow anything on that land. So what happens? What I remember from my primary school days, and lesson in science on the water cycle. The water cycle. You have the water here and it evaporates, causes the clouds, and then eventually comes down and rain. Its weight there, then it again evaporates. And so that's how we find now that we have so many droughts, because the earth has been mistreated with all these chemical fertilizers. Another thing, when I was young, we used to have a subsistence farm. And I remember going to the farm with my parents. And what we used to do was that the crops that we grow this year, we take out, for example, if we are growing maize or beans, we take the beans or we take the maize, but the stalk, we leave it there to fertilize the ground. A few years later, we found all these chemical fertilizers being advertised and forcing people to use them. And these chemical fertilizers have polluted the earth, that now you can't grow any crops. My final heartbreak was when I went back to Zambia after a few years. And my sister said to me, "Oh, I need to go to the farmer's market or something like that to buy some seed." And we got there, and she was looking at this colored, I think it was painted blue, the maize grain, painted blue, and the beans and the groundnuts, all in different colors. And I said, "Why? What are you doing here?" She said, "Oh, this is the seed for our next crop." And I said, "What happened to to what we used to use before? You know, like when I was there with my parents, every harvest, we kept some of the grain away so we could use it as seed for the next season." And she told me that it won't grow. So every season you have to go back and buy seed. So you can see how hunger is perpetuated in Africa by vandalizing the earth. In vandalizing the earth, you are vandalizing the climate. As I said, we are trying to go to Mars. What are we going to do in Mars? And how many people can go and live in Mars? How many people will afford the ride to Mars? We know how much that spaceship that attempted to go to Mars cost. So how many people can go there? We have heard before that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And as the Duchess said, our worries should be about our children. What kind of world are we leaving to our children? We should worry about Otto's dog. What kind of world are we leaving to other animals that inhabit this earth? What do we need to do in order to preserve the earth? Africa holds the biggest carbon sink. And if the world should vandalize Africa, the African soil, the African earth, then the world is dooming itself. So we should take it upon ourselves to realize, I don't know what we can do to try and say, look, we don't need these painted grains in order to grow maize. We can grow the maize. I asked my sister said, no, we've been using this painted grain, and when we try to keep some from last harvest, but it will not grow. So it's all to do with greed and to do with trying to make money. And as one native Indian said, until when we have seen that the last river has dried out and the last plant, I think, has died off, and we have caught the last fish, then we know that we cannot eat money. Money will not sustain the world. Thank you.
Very good. Oh, good. I'm hoping that's the right one. Okay. So, who is protecting our planet? Actually, some of the speeches actually are really good. They touch the right place. It shows that somehow our priorities are out of order. And that's in the line of what I'm going to discuss. And it's something like this, that if we don't have our purpose right, something's wrong. And if we don't have a clear direction, then we get pulled and pushed and buffeted one way or the other. So if we don't have a clear sense of purpose in life, then questions like this become very complicated to resolve. And I think you've all classic. Sorry. So it's quite instrumental, I think, with all of the speeches that we've heard so far. If we don't have our purpose correct, an idea of where we're going, what brings us happiness, what fulfills us, what is our drive for. I have a very brilliant friend. If you ever look up Nevinomics, Andrew Nivin, or Dr. Andrew Nivin, went to Harvard and Oxford and became a strategic partner for PricewaterhouseCoopers. You know, when the Bank of Japan had a problem during the Great Crash, they called him and his team. When the Bank of Ireland had a problem, they called him and his team. You know, he learned Chinese fluently, he knows Japanese, he knows so many other languages. So, quite brilliant person. But I asked him, what is he doing now? He says, I'm studying flourishing. He says, GDP is wrong. And the governments of the world are so much, they're based on GDP, gross domestic product. You know, are you increasing the gross domestic product for your people? And if you are, then the idea is that they're more prosperous and they feel better. But he says, actually, we should have something called flourishing. That should be part of the way that governments are assessed and their economic governance. So if we also look at climate change, we also have a problem, and I call it maybe a parental perspective. Climate change and the efforts to overcome it are doing something very admirable. In many cases, they're very sincere people. In many cases, are dedicating their life's purpose to trying to change the direction of the world and its consumption or misconsumption. And governments are put in a place between a rock and a hard place. You know, they're really in a tough position. Because on one level, they get elected if they increase GDP. They increase people's feeling of prosperity. But on the other hand, they know that they've got this wider responsibility, and many of their electorate are also looking at this. So they've got to fulfill something which sometimes is quite contradictory. Businesses can propose better and better solutions to the problems that are arising, but there's a more fundamental question that businesses can't solve, which is, you know, what is our purpose and what makes us happy? What is it that we're supposed to be fulfilling and to live a better life? And this specific case, you know, what is our responsibility to the environment around us? I love this expression that Justina mentioned. It's underlying the rise of Greta Thunberg and the younger generation who are campaigning so brilliantly. You know, we're borrowing the environment, the natural world from our children and from our children's children and so on. So in a sense, we need this parental perspective of borrowing in the right way, looking to what will bring our grandchildren happiness. So in a sense, we need a wider perspective. And a perspective, Father Moon talks about a global culture of peace and talks about this. And culture of peace is something that's been around since the mid-70s. But where a culture of peace can be truly fulfilled is when actually we're very considerate about the needs of others. And that we can come into a balance of living for the sake of others, where we find satisfaction, we find happiness. At one point, they looked at happiness in the world, and the developed nations were quite unhappy. And there are a few nations like Finland and Sweden and a few others that seem to have the balance a bit better, but more often it was the middle nations who had much more simple lifestyles, but actually were very happy within their families, their wider connected families. They found a lot of satisfaction within that context. So the idea of living the dream of one global family, in which we're all brothers and sisters, in which our mind becomes capable to embrace different cultures, different peoples and races and religions across our globe, and to see the interconnected nature of this world, which is becoming more and more the case, that we would have this idea of being a global citizen, a global member of a world family. One thing you heard Ban Ki-moon quote, which we have this slogan of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. This idea of living in harmony, but actually not having overconsumption, not having, since we have what we need, and then also we are invested in our friends and our neighbors, our different people within our city, within our nation, peoples throughout the world who may be suffering much more than we are. Then we have a capacity to reach out and form structures and companies, institutions that help those different countries and peoples who are less well off. Therefore, in partnership, we should build relationships of trust, whereby we help peoples from different countries and different races and religions apart from ourselves. In that way, there could be mutual prosperity, living in these relationships of mutual trust, and sharing universal values. And that's based on a sense of happiness, which is not just external, but also internal. We find happiness through both developing internally and externally, having what we need to live a happy life. So we need food, shelter, wealth, comfort. We need those things. But we also need the more internal things, the truth, beauty, goodness, love, the inner satisfaction that builds within us through living a life invested in others and invested in building those relationships I talked of before. Those two together build a much more stable happiness within us, which is resilient and which can help us deal with the waves, the winds, and the ups and downs that human life experiences. And we also enter a realm of kind of quite mysterious, I mean, it's common to all faiths, but this idea of when you give out, something always comes back. And I often talk about this, the Mongolian professional women's group that Margaret and I befriended about 15, 16 years ago. And they had someone who was working in a Mongolian bank here in the UK. They wanted to help cervical scans in Mongolia, particularly in rural areas. So they were doing charitable work here, but they wanted to get going as a group. So they asked us, can we have a couple of events with you to get our group going? So they came in here and they invited some people, we invited some people, and we had something around International Women's Day. One event here, one event in Parliament. And we actually benefited so much by holding this event together with them. They really got going as a group and really did well. But through some of the people we met through this group, a few years later we were looking for a venue in Brussels to have an event. We were going to have something in the European Parliament. It was about Congo, about DRC and human rights in Congo, I remember. And we wanted something the day before, and hotels were expensive and so on. So we were trying to find a venue, and then one of our friends that we met through this Mongolian group was appointed by the UK to the European Economic Social Council, Social Committee, and they have an institution in Brussels, and their upper floor is a conference room. And she heard that we were looking for a venue and said, look, you could use our place. It was an amazing place, and we used it. But I was just thinking, it's amazing whatever you give out seems to come back. You know, whether you're looking at it as an individual, whether you're looking at it as a group, as a family, as an institution, as a nation. Whatever you give out always seems to come back. It's mysterious. You can never say objectively this, X plus Y equals Z. You can never calculate like this, but intuitively you feel, wow, that's so connected. So giving and receiving have no limits, but we need to keep giving on bigger and bigger levels in order to enter this kind of realm. I'll just end with this quote from Viktor Frankl. If we want to flourish, we want to be fulfilled, as well as being productive, we need to find this sense of meaning and fulfill this sense of meaning within ourselves. And it's the key for good mental health and for human flourishing. So this is also good for the climate, that we come in balance with ourselves, then we can also come in balance with the climate, with also the environment that's around us. By living in balance, and by living in balance with also the nations around us, then it's very difficult to deal with climate change and pollution when you're at war. It's almost impossible. So creating peace, creating these good relationships between nations, then building this mutual trust, then we can deal with these wider important issues that will be enduring and long-lasting for our descendants for many generations. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to recognize and invite Mr. Danny Lambo, who's, I've got to introduce you just one second. We were very privileged to meet him a few weeks back. Aurangzeb invited us to a dinner, and Keith and Margaret, myself, and others, we went and joined. We heard an amazing story of his life. Incredible, just how he gets thrown into the deep end and he seems to flourish. He seems to, saying his hair hides his earlobes. I can see them today, but in Asia, they always look at the earlobes and they say, you know, if someone's got good fortune, things will go well. They tend to have quite long or well-developed earlobes. It's Asian, Oriental philosophy. It's, but just the amazing things that he's done, and one after the other, you're coming back from Japan where he was a musician at a very, very early age, between 15 and 21, and then coming back to go into hotel ownership and develop hotels and become a roaring success, and then develop that from one property to another, and so on, and then find out that within his network that he can become a broker or a fixer and get a commission. And then he starts becoming an expert in this. And then also reality TV and so many other areas. He must have such an amazingly positive mind to go forward like this. But also through these fixing, then to have this experience of conversion. This, in Christianity, we call it Damascus experience or epiphany, through being in the right place at the right time. So, an amazing story, but we'd like to invite him up to give us his insights, maybe on the topic today, maybe about life. But and later on, we will be presenting an Ambassador for Peace Award. But please welcome Danny Lambert. Thank you.
Hi, thanks very much, everybody. My name's Danny Lambo, and I'm very humbled and honoured to be here today. So, as Robin was saying, I have had quite a privileged life, not from being born into a wealthy family or anything, but through circumstances that happened in my life. I was basically spotted by a Japanese record producer when I was 15, and he took me to Japan, and I got a record deal with Sony Records in Japan, and I had this pop star career in Japan from the age of 15 to 21. I quit the music industry at 21, came back to London, didn't know really what to do, but I had a lot of money in the bank from my music career. So I invested it in a hotel because I was always staying in hotels during my music career. Every day, pretty much, the routine was 1 hour rehearsal in the afternoon, 2 hour show in the evening. The other 21 hours of the day, I was always in hotels. So I knew everything about hotels. I thought I might as well buy a hotel. So I bought a hotel, actually, just around the corner in Sussex Gardens in Paddington. It was a rundown B&B, freehold building with 30 bedrooms. And I was very I love going to watch theatre and plays. So I wanted to create there were a couple of boutique hotels in London at the time, but I wanted to create a hotel where every door you open, it's like you're walking onto the stage of a play. So I bought the hotel with exactly the money that I had. I went to the only person in business in my family was my godfather, who had a restaurant, and he told me, I'll give you two pieces of advice: location, location, location. And the second is, don't take a mortgage from the bank. Whatever money you've got, buy the property for that much. Otherwise, you'll be working for the bank for the rest of your life. So luckily I found a rundown B&B with 30 bedrooms. It was a 10-minute walk to Hyde Park and Oxford Street. And it was exactly the price that I had. So I bought the hotel, and slowly then I was pretty much hands-on for 10 years, running it myself. I wrote my sister into it. She was an interior designer, so I had all these crazy ideas. So we had like a Moroccan room, a Chinese room, a 70s themed room. So it's become like a themed hotel. When the hotel was ready, I went back to my old record label, Sony, and I told them, can you send the bands to stay? So they started sending the bands of the time, Duran Duran and Morrissey and Pulp. Where the rock stars go, the fashion models follow. So you had Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss, they were all staying. And then we just called it the Pavilion Hotel. But the press got hold of this new funky hotel in London. All the rock stars and celebs are hanging out, and they called it the Pavilion Fashion Rock and Roll Hotel. And off the bat, every magazine or newspaper has some kind of travel section. And so off the back of that, every week, somewhere around the world, there was an article about the Pavilion and myself. It was this new cool hotel. And off the back of that then, and plus the area that I bought the hotel in, W2, the property values just went through the roof. And literally within a couple of years, I was a multi-millionaire. At that point, banks were happy to and I had no mortgages as well it was a freehold building. So at that time, this was going back 20 years, banks were happy to throw money at you. So I went to my local bank, I said, I want to buy some more hotels. And they gave me a blank checkbook. They said, we've seen the success you've done with your hotel. Do whatever you want, pay us back in a year with the interest. So actually on the first checkbook, I was really into, as a kid, I had the Lamborghini poster on the wall. I was a big Lamborghini supercar fan. I know it's not the right place to talk about it when we're talking about saving the planet because of the V12 engine. But I have ordered the new Lamborghini Revuelto, which is a hybrid. So it switches from electric. You can alternate from electric to petrol. So I am doing my part to save the planet. Although I don't actually believe that electric is the way forward because of the lithium that's used for the batteries. You've got issues with the mining in Africa and the literally child slave labor that's being used there, and the pollution of dumping these batteries when they're overused. So actually, Japan is leading. I think hydrogen fuel is the way forward, which the Japanese are pretty much on the ball with that right now. But so going back to my story. So actually, the first check, when they gave me the checkbook, the first check I actually wrote was to Lamborghini London. I bought my first Lamborghini at the age of 21 because I knew that I could pay them back in a year and I knew what profit I'd be making. So I had 7 hotels at one point. I kept them all on the same street, actually, so I could manage them all. Now I've got 2 left, my original one and another one a few doors away. And so for the first 10 years, I was pretty much hands-on. And then what happened was the whole reality TV started, and there was a Channel 4 show. It was called 4 in a Bed. It sounds a bit risque, but it's actually about, they get 4 hotel owners, and they all stay, B&B owners, they stay at each other's hotels, and they mark each other, and you take them for a day out somewhere as well. It runs for like 5 episodes. They can be quite, they can be quite nasty and bitchy, the show can be. So they asked me to do it. It was a Channel 4 show. I didn't really want to, but everyone was doing reality TV, so I thought, let me just get it over and done with. So I did that, and it was quite an experience, and I actually won the viewers over. And after that, like every TV channel was asking me to do a reality TV, and I started to do them then, and I've done like 12 reality shows now on UK TV. The last one was actually X Factor, so it was actually my comeback into the music business. So then what happened was after the whole reality thing, you know, once I saw the properties now have gone completely through the roof, and you know, I could retire tomorrow and have a very nice life. So for me now, I'm older, I'm wiser. It's about giving back. I actually ran for London Mayor in 2020. There were two key, I think certain things in life, something happens and it makes you change your opinion of life. So I was having a good time. The press had labelled me as Britain's flashiest playboy because I was always out partying every night and having a good time. But some things happen in your life that change your mindset. With our friend Otto, it was his dog dying that made him realise, okay, look, he died because plastic. My dog ate plastic. There's an issue here. We need to deal with it. People make a difference. One person can make a difference. I don't know how many of you have heard of a lady called Emily Davison. Has anyone heard of her? I think the ladies should all have heard of her. So she actually gave her life. She sacrificed her life, I think 1913 or 14. She was one of the suffragettes. So she wanted that women couldn't vote in the UK. So she actually threw herself. There was a big horse race every year, the Derby, and she threw herself in front of the King's horse, King George V's horse, and she died. And she made such a huge impact, that one person, that the women got the right to vote then in this country. We have a guy yesterday, I didn't really want to talk about this, but it impacted me so much. I've been very upset about what's happening in Gaza for the last 5 months now. So many, I think the Duchess made a comment and somebody else that children should always come first, whatever. And I think any decisions that we as people make in this world and governments should make in this world, the children should always come first. And then everything else should be secondary. But that should always be the priority, the safety and the welfare of children. And right now, there was a man yesterday, he was an American soldier in the Air Force. He was 25 years old. His name was Aaron Bushnell. And you might have seen it. The news hasn't really been talking about it that much. But he walked to the Israeli embassy in Washington and he set himself on fire and he killed himself. And he said, I'm doing this for the children of Gaza, that what's happening is a genocide, and I don't want to be complicit, that my country is funding this genocide by supplying bombs. And sadly he passed away, but I hope that his death, just like Emily Davison's, will wake people up, particularly the governments, because there's too many governments in the world who are just turning a blind eye to this, for whatever reasons they have. I know the arms industry is probably the largest industry in the world. So they're putting profit before children's lives. And I think the children's lives have to come first. Otherwise, we're going to have a huge catastrophe that's happening. Moving on to more positive. And, going back to the climate, all these bombs, I think I read somewhere that like the equivalent of 7 Hiroshimas have been dropped on Gaza in the last 5 months on that teeny strip of land. So, the children's and other people's deaths aside, then it's not going to be good for the environment. McDonald's making a few straws out of paper instead of plastic. It's not going to change much. So now for me it's about giving back, and if I can make that difference, it's the reason why I actually ran for London Mayor was because, two main reasons. One was, statistically, London is one of the richest countries in the world. We have the most billionaires in the world live in London. But we've got a homeless epidemic, not only in London, but across the UK. We've got more food banks than McDonald's in this country for the first time in my life. When I was a kid, we didn't know what a food bank was. I mean, you'd have the odd homeless person who chose to sleep on the street because he was a bit, cuckoo. He liked that lifestyle. But now you've got people living on the streets, children. I've seen children, and it really hit me once. And people just walk past them as though they're invisible, they don't exist. I was coming out of one of my decisions wanting to run for London Mayor. I was coming out of Winter Wonderland. It's on every year on Park Lane. For me, Park Lane it's the richest street in Britain. It was on the Monopoly board when I used to play as a kid. I want to buy Park Lane. I've got a house on Park Lane. And people walking down, I'd parked off of Park Lane on one of the side streets, and everybody was walking down Park Lane, and they were carrying their teddy bears that they'd won and everything. And there was a row of shops, and in every doorway on that shop, there was somebody, homeless person, sleeping there. And people just walking past them as though they didn't exist. And just seeing that made me think, I've got to do something to change this. And then another thing, because I said, my government isn't doing anything. I'm all for foreign aid where it's needed, right? But, we give foreign aid to 4 countries that have nuclear weapons. We're still giving foreign aid 4 countries that have nuclear weapons. And some of them even maybe pointed at us. But this is just insanity. If a country can afford to not only have nuclear weapons, but stockpile them, they don't need our foreign aid. These systems were set up after World War II when the United Nations was formed, and they were kind of done as favors. Oh, you helped us in the war, so, we're going to keep giving you a check every year. This whole system has to change now. The whole United Nations system has to change. The whole veto power system has to change. The governments aren't going to change it because they're happy to go along with the status quo. So it's NGOs, it's people like us, it's people like Emily Davison, people like Aaron Bushnell, who need to make that change now. Otherwise, the world is heading for a disaster. We could be on the brink of World War III with what's going on in the Middle East. So it's up to us to speak out and make that change. So that's why I was looking for an outlet for that. I think together as people we're stronger. So when I was growing up, there were 2 main communities in the UK. You had the Afro-Caribbean community and you had the Asian community. There were the 2 main ethnic minorities. And there was the Notting Hill Carnival they had for the Afro-Caribbean community, and the Asian community, they had their Diwali party on when it was their time, and the Muslim community had their Eid parties. That was it. But today London's a completely different, it's a changed place. We have 100 different nationalities all living in one city. Even in this room, there's probably about 10 different nationalities here alone, more. So, but we don't know each other. That's the problem. We don't know each other. If you take the average, English person, and you get a black guy in front of him, you say, what do you see in this? He says, a black guy. They want to know whether he's from the Caribbean, whether he's from Africa, what part of Africa. Yeah, they want anything. We don't even know who our neighbours are. And unfortunately, the government, backed by the news media, they keep us separated. They give us labels to keep us divided. Irish is drunk, Polish coming to take your jobs, Muslim terrorist, a black man is in a knife crime, he's going to stab you with a knife. They give you these labels and you start believing it. You're naturally a good person, but you start becoming this person who believes this nonsense. So because they want to keep us divided, we need to get together and know each other better. So, when sometimes I meet a Nigerian person, and I can tell straight away he's Nigerian, and I say, oh, where are you from? And he says, I'm from Nigeria. I say, oh, are you Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo? He says, oh, how do you know my tribes? He's shocked that I know, right? An English person knows the 3 main tribes in Nigeria. Right? And she's got a big smile on her face, you see? So, and then he starts talking, he becomes more friendly. Oh, where we exchange, social medias. This is how we get to know each other. Learn a bit about each other. I'm not saying learn, every single language out there. Let them know a bit about each other. So I had an idea that when I was running for London Mayor, which was to organise a global festival, we still have the Notting Hill Carnival and the other ones, but this is a global festival that I wanted to do in Hyde Park, and this is to bring people together to learn a bit about each other. So in the festival, we'd have stands, and every stand would represent the country of people living in London, from A to Z, from Argentina all the way to Zambia at the end. And each stand would showcase their culture, their cuisine, their music, their fashion, their dance, and also, business, trade, import and export of that country, or holiday destination if it is. And to make it cost effective, my idea was to approach the embassies in London and get them to cover the cost. If you want your country to take part, you cover the cost of your stand, and you can showcase who do you think is your best fashion designer, who do you think is your best music to showcase. And on each stand, we could have a few words there: hello, goodbye, peace, so that people can learn a little bit about each other. So it would be a 3-day event. The first day would be for dignitaries, VIPs, to come and talk trade, business. And then the second and the third day would be for Londoners to come for free, experience each other's, get to know a bit about each other, and so that together we're stronger. And then we can tell the government what they need to do, because they represent us. They should be our mouthpiece, not what they want to do or what big corporate companies want to do. So it didn't work out for me as London Mayor. Obviously, Labour and Conservative have huge budgets, and then the whole lockdown situation happened, so I couldn't really promote it that much. So I was looking for an organisation to work with me on this, and I met Robin. We had a lovely dinner a couple of weeks ago, and they're very keen on the idea. So hopefully, now I'm receiving this Ambassador for Peace Award, I can work together with UPF, and we can, with my contacts, with his contacts, we can make this festival happen, have it as a yearly festival, so that we can work together and control our own city and influence globally what's happening around the world.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. Oh, so, yeah, so also, whereas I wanted to bring me up, I kind of keep my religious beliefs kind of to myself, but as he's asked me. So I was raised, I have a Brazilian mother, and my father was from former Soviet Union, which is now Azerbaijan. But so he grew up as a communist, and my mother was a Catholic, and so there was really kind of secular household that I grew up in. But I've always had a kind of, you could call it an agnostic feeling that there was, this earth didn't create itself. There had to be a creator. Now, some say, what came, it was the chicken and the egg situation. What came first, the creator or the creation? But obviously you need a creator to make the creation. So it's logical that a creator came first, and he was, I'll call him he, but he was always, she was always eternal. It was no beginning, no end. Otherwise, it just wouldn't make sense. And when you look at some of the, the miracles out there in the world, I mean, I was in Sri Lanka on holiday, and a fisherman said, "Come on my boat, give me $10 and I'll take you out on my fishing boat." And he pulled out the net, and there was some fish. One fish was literally like a rainbow with 20 different colors on it, different colored eyes. And I said, this couldn't happen from a big bang, 2 billion years ago. There had to be a creator, a designer to make this. And so I've always been kind of spiritual, you could call it. Obviously, as Robin was mentioned, in the last few years, I've been fixing a lot of deals. Obviously, owning a hotel for 20 plus years. I have a lot of clients from, Hollywood celebrities to famous musicians, politicians, and a lot of business people. And they've become my friends over the years. So I was always putting them, they would call me up, "Oh, Danny, do you know someone who's selling Picasso?" And "Yeah, I know an art dealer friend of mine, he's got a Picasso." I put them together and they do a deal, and I'd be happy for them. And then somebody once told me after about 4 years of doing this, "You should be getting commission from this. Why are you putting these people together? You should be getting commission from this." And so, I said, I should be making a commission from this. But they're my friends. He said, "No, business is business." So the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, I have been doing brokering a lot of deals, which made me, I found myself in Saudi Arabia for the first time, just a month ago, about 6 weeks ago, actually. And I was bringing a Chinese consortium there. Saudi Arabia has pretty much opened up now it's a huge business. It's like Dubai 30 years ago. So there's huge opportunity for all kinds of investments of every aspect, and big opportunities there business-wise. So the Chinese are very keen to go in there, but they didn't have much contacts there because Saudi Arabia was always allied with America. And America said, "Don't do business with China." So the Chinese didn't really have much access into there. But even Donald Trump, his first visit when he became president, his foreign visit was to Saudi Arabia. But since Joe Biden became president, he's kind of been Saudi. He hasn't visited Saudi Arabia. So the Chinese saw this as an opportunity to go in. The Saudis now welcoming them, and the current Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, he's opened up Saudi Arabia now for all kinds of things. They even have music festivals now, and he has a vision for they're building a whole city there called Neom City, Neom, you can Google it. I mean, it's going to make Peckham look like Dubai, this place. It's going to have flying cars and all. So huge. They've signed the deal for the World Cup 2034. So there was only one bidder, because after Qatar won last time, the amount of money, it's all about money, and unless you've got a huge purse, you can't even entertain their FIFA. So there was one bid, and it was Saudi Arabia, and nobody can beat that bid. So they've got the contract for 2034, so they're already starting building the stadiums there. So obviously China, price-wise, efficiency-wise, China, I saw an article, they built a whole tower block in 15 days, like 20-story tower block. It was in the papers. So they're number one. You can't beat them on price, efficiency, speed. So I took a consortium of chairmen of big major Chinese corporations, and we've set up a company now with a ruling royal family member. I can't say who, but so I actually finished I was planned to stay in Saudi for a week, but I finished my trip early. After 4 days, we finished the business, and so I didn't know what to do then. I thought, shall I just come back to London? Then my friend called me. He said, I'm organising the electric Formula One race final. It's in Riyadh. Why don't you come down? I've got you VIP tickets. We can enjoy your last couple of days in Saudi there. So I planned to do that. I said, okay, I'll do that. We had dinner the night before, but that night before, I had a dream, and something was telling me to go and see the history side. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is the heart of Islam. It's where Islam was founded. And so something in my head in that dream was, I had a dream where I was walking around. It wasn't the Kaaba. It was some like just religious sites, right? And so I thought, I'm going to explore the historical side of Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to go to the Formula One. So I booked a flight there. I told my friend, he understood. I said, I'm on a spiritual journey. I took a flight. I didn't have a hotel booked, to Jeddah, which is the closest airport to Mecca, and where the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, was born. And when I got there, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a hotel. I was just looking for a cab driver. And then I saw a black guy was standing there. And I thought it was a cab driver. I said, he was wearing the long white Arab robe that they wear and the Muslim hat. And I said, are you a cab driver? He said, you a taxi? And he said, no, I'm not a taxi. What are you doing here? And I said, well, I've just come to see like the historical side of Saudi Arabia. And he said, what do you know about? I said, who are you? Basically, he was studying Islam at the Medina University. And he said, what do you know about Islam? I said, well, I have Muslim friends in London. I know the basics, the 5 pillars, and they fast in Ramadan. And he said, can we have dinner, and I can tell you more about it. I hadn't eaten, so I said, yeah, let's go for dinner. So he took me to a cab. He paid for the cab. He just took me to dinner. Then we were at the dinner then for like 4 hours, and all the questions that I had, and I had a lot of negative impressions as well that the news media portray about Islam. So, obviously the whole brainwashing thing, the division, that was in my head as well, even though I tried to judge people individually. So I had good Muslim friends that, but, these things stick in your head. So all these questions I had, he would give me positive answers, and it all made sense to me. So he said, do you want to come to see the Kaaba and take a shahada and do, which is the declaration of faith, and do what's called an umrah. It's like a pilgrimage. So I told him, let's do it. Everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that, and I've always been every career that I've had, whether it was the Japanese record producer that I met or starting the hotel, I never planned it. Just suddenly I met someone or something happened and I was in at the deep end, and that's okay, that's the path of my life. So I said, let's do it. And I did it, and I had this, I went there, and it's like an hour cab drive to Mecca. He was paying the whole way, this guy, and I had in my head, I'm going to give him £1,000 when we leave, but he just was refusing money from me. And then we went to the Kaaba then, and when I saw it, I just had this emotional, spiritual awakening, and I just broke down in tears, and he was filming the whole thing. And then, I declared I became a Muslim, and I came back to London then, the next day, and I don't really put much religious stuff on my Facebook, Merry Christmas, Happy Easter, that's about it, but I put the video up and just said, I went to Saudi for some business, came back a Muslim, a newborn Muslim. And the next day the video had gone viral. It was like millions and millions of views, and every channel. The Muslim community have been so welcoming, and it's been coming in from country to country. So it's starting in Bangladesh, and then Indonesia, and then Kosovo, and then Bosnia, and then it's coming from country to country. All these, and it hasn't stopped till today. Like every day, I'm getting at least 400 or 500 messages of support. So, maybe this is one federation, with one God, and because I believe there is one God. And call him what you want, but there's one God. And I think that will bring us closer together, and it's something that we need, and it's part of my journey, and I guess all of yours, and that's why you're here. So I didn't want to talk about that, but he's forced me to. Thank you to Robin for inviting me, and thank you to Aurangzeb for introducing me to Robin.
So now we'd like to present an Ambassador for Peace Award to Daniel. Maybe we should. It doesn't go much further.
Yeah,
Margaret. After an amazing testimony, present an ambassador for his work to you. Thank you. Duke is chair of the UPF UK Board of Trustees. Margaret and I work together to run UPF UK.
Thank you. For Danny.
Congratulations.
He's great, isn't he? Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I can.
But,
We have.
who? One. Let them one more. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Stay there. When I met Danny, it was amazing. I didn't know about Muslim or something, but I thought he was such an amazing person, doing all these things. He's saying all the bad and the good, and I felt a closeness of heart. It's like a brother. And very proud to have such a brother. That's all I want to say about you. But then we have another person coming now.
Another award?
So we'd also like to present an award to Mr. Chowdhury.
He's also Aurangzeb. His name is also Aurangzeb.
Aurangzeb, would you like to?
But you give it to somebody else.
Thank you. So we're from Birmingham today to join you with us.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to say some words after me.
Well, I'll be very brief because we've come to the end of the evening, but I just wanted to say a very big thanks to Danny and all the other speakers for such an inspiring and very informed discussion that we've had. We've been very fortunate to have such insights. I have really never understood why climate change and sustainability of the earth is so controversial. All the evidence is around us. We see the ice cap melting, we see the glaciers retreating, we see the parts of the world being inundated, and it's not just the Maldives, it's going to be many other parts of the world which will find themselves under the sea. And yet it's very, very controversial. Why? I think because it matters. And that's very important. And it should be controversial because it matters. And there are also very much vested interests, as you've heard this evening, the commercial interests. People don't like change. And in order to combat climate change and to deal with sustainability, we have to change. As Danny was saying, every individual can make a difference. And he quoted some examples. I think it's amazing that, and it was encapsulated by Margaret Mead, the philanthropist, who said, never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, nothing else ever has. And that is our task. And, as Danny was saying, we each can make a difference. I don't know about you, but when I do my teeth in the morning and at night, I put some water on the toothbrush and some toothpaste, and then I turn the water off. Lots of people leave it running. It's simple things like that we can do. And, we have to get the message across to people that combating climate change is not only something within our grasp, both individually and collectively, but also it is highly practical. I mean, I remember years and years ago when Bangladesh banned the use of plastic bags. Yes, it helped the jute industry massively, and probably every single one of us have got a jute bag that's probably made in Bangladesh somewhere at home when we do our shopping in. We don't use plastic bags, not least because supermarkets charge you for them. But why did Bangladesh ban plastic bags? It wasn't out of philanthropy, it was out of pure national self-interest. Why? Because all the plastic bags were blocking up the drains and everywhere was flooding as a result. And so they banned the plastic bags for that practical reason. And you can find lots and lots of practical reasons as to why the things that we can do to try to save this earth for future generations can be done for practical reasons. And that's the message I believe we've got to get across. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming this evening. I'm delighted we've had such influential speakers with so much knowledge, and I look forward to us continuing this debate very much and talking about how not only we as individuals, but collectively, we can actually get that message across and make it a reality. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. But I still... Who? Oh, okay.
You said first.
No. Oh. I'm just going to say a few words.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for this. I think I'm not deserve this, but this kindness of Mr. Aurangzeb. He always me. I work for British Red Cross in Birmingham, and I also work for women domestic abuse. We have charity in Birmingham. I run with my local councillor Nikki, and we help many people from like Pakistan and Kashmir, especially women come in this country. And such a, I think we never discuss in our community, like my background Muslim as well. But I think in Britain, we are man-dominated society. We never discussed about women's issues. And we work in other charities as well. And we support all women, especially single moms. and who abuse, domestic abuse, and we help them. And I think in this stage, we work for different religion, like Christian, Muslim, everybody together. And I think I'm proud myself. I stand on this stage. And my background, Kashmiri community. And when you need me, we always with you. Any financial help or anything, we always with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like, I was thinking about the topic, and when Danny spoke about spirituality, I feel that in the Bible, yeah, or in the kind of, it's all religions of Islam and yeah, Quran, and there says God gave us, three blessings. One of them is your own mind and body. Number 2 is your marriage, your home, and your world. And then the third blessing is to be guardians of the earth. And what have we done? I mean, this is from God saying to us, take care of my land, of your land. What have we done? We've break trees, throw things, and everything that's bad. But you know what it required? It said that you dominate, you have what does it say? Dominion over it. Yeah? But our mind doesn't think, what is dominion? Dominion is treating things with love, with kindness, with understanding why these things are there. But we didn't do it. We're not guardians of our planet. When you say, who is protecting our planet? Each one of us should protect our planet if we understand that we are from God, if you understand that this is needed, which is very obvious. So if every one of us, like the tap, like the lights, like whatever, every one of us makes an effort, then there will be more desire of other people that see us. And in fact, it should be a collective help, collective work. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3 is not enough. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for everyone that spoke very well. Really.
Let me introduce you more people, especially because the thing is, Bamboo, she was one very, like. Come please on the stage.
I think we should move closer. Let's move the back because we're close to the people. Let me move closer. I think we should move closer again. Let's move closer again so we're together.
You're a lovely lady.
Come forward.
Okay. You can come to Sir. Sir, don't be left out. Come. How about you?
I think I'm doing very well.
This young man.
Somebody behind you.
Is that the sort of
Come. You go. I don't know it. Come.
It's not a good idea. I'm sorry.
Domingo? I can come inside with you. No.
How about this gentleman?
So from UPF side, this young man is kidding.
Can you come?
Did you finish?
Tell him.
Okay, one more face. You go in the picture.
Come, you come in the picture.
Come in the picture. Come in the picture. Come in the picture. Come in the picture.
Get in the picture, come. You never get pictured, I know you don't.
Then
I'll film, please.
Okay.
In that case, you can grab this one as well.
Can you see me though?
Yeah.
I'm the main man.
I'm going to mirror you. I'll mirror you exactly.
Yay.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Yes.
Hold on.
He's going to take his shot yet.
Thank you. We're going to take a shot, Ryan.
That's the edge. That's it.
Believe me, it's enough. Believe me,
It's
photograph.
Danny Lambo's day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Could everyone help put the chairs away?
Thank you very much.
Hello, I didn't see you. Lovely couple.